Hi, welcome back to our Thrive and Aligned podcast. This is episode 122, and today we're going to talk about skin rashes and their root cause. So I've had a lot of skin rashes this week, so this is what we're going to talk about. When I say skin rashes, think things like eczema, chronic hives, psoriasis, or like thrush or candida rashes on our skin. Often, and sometimes some of those rashes can be a little bit indistinct, but rashes that are chronic, right? Things that kind of take a while to go away or don't go away. That's what we're focusing on today. Yeah. When we think about things on our skin, oftentimes the skin will represent symptoms in the gut.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a direct relationship between our gut health and what our skin health looks like. So when we have things like eczema, whether it's eczema on babies or whether it's adult eczema or something people have had for 40, 50 years, oftentimes if their eczema gets worse, if it's drier, itchier, more patches, oftentimes it's a reflection of their gut health.
Okay.
Yeah. Same thing with like psoriasis, right? Psoriasis is an autoimmune condition. It may not be itchy, but it's usually patches or plaques that are created, and it's an overreaction of the immune system. So again, 80% of the immune system's in the gut. So if the gut is out of balance and your immune system is overreactive, that can present as symptoms, or that can present and make that autoimmune condition worse.
Okay.
Yeah. Things like hives, we think of like allergies, right?
Yeah.
Now, sometimes hives can be like a contact, what we call contact dermatitis. So you touch something or you change your laundry detergent and you have a rash wherever those clothes touched you.
Mhm.
Or like you're working with chemicals and then you get a rash on your hands, right? Those are a little bit different. Like that one, right, we can see cause and effect. Like I came in contact with this chemical, this plant, and then it created hives, versus like somebody who has hives that are kind of unexplained, right?
Yeah.
Like you wake up with hives, they itch. The next day you wake up with more spots, and they may resolve a little bit, and then they may be changing. Again, we're looking at is there something that if the hives are changing and they're not associated with like a contact dermatitis, is there something that's different in the diet? Is there something that's different? Like, have you had recent antibiotic use? Have you had a different prescription, right? Is there something internally that's affecting a change in our gut health that's presenting in symptoms on the skin?
Okay.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we often see, so eczema is very common, right? A ton of people have eczema. And oftentimes people get eczema when they're kids, and then sometimes they grow out of it and sometimes they don't. But you can still have new onset eczema as an adult. Okay. Because eczema is very non-distinct in that it is usually just kind of a dry patch, and then it turns into like 3 or 4 dry patches, or then it'll kind of confluence together and be like one big dry patch that's really itchy and annoying. And if it's not on a place on the body that we see on a regular basis, some people don't really mind it, or they may become self-conscious, like especially around swimsuit season or something. But really, because it's an immune reaction, oftentimes in conventional medicine, they will recommend steroids, right?
Okay.
Like do a steroid cream, whether it's a prescription or over the counter, like hydrocortisone. There are some lotions out there that they market towards eczema. Some of them actually have hydrocortisone in them, and some of them are just like a really, really thick, greasy emollient to keep the skin dry. right?
Moisturize.
Yeah. Right. Or sorry, to keep the skin moist. With this, like they used to use petroleum jelly, right? They used to just like lather up kids in petroleum jelly. And that would help with the itching, but didn't really like make the rash go away. Um, so if we're looking at that relationship, we're looking at, okay, well, maybe there's something that we're eating that's creating, a sensitivity. It's creating that rash on the skin. So we try and, evaluate for food sensitivities. Sometimes it's an imbalance in the microbiome, right? Where the bugs in our gut aren't able to break down the foods that we eat. And then that's creating, skin rashes or skin symptoms. Okay. Right? I was going to say a good example of a food sensitivity alongside eczema. So oftentimes the most common foods that people are sensitive to are things like milk, dairy, right? Milk, cheese, yogurts, and ice cream, breads, and then sugars. Sometimes it can be like food dyes or preservatives for people. But there sometimes if you have seen that KP, the keratin pilaris, where you get like little bumps on they call it like chicken skin on the outer part of your upper arm, has been associated with like gluten sensitivities. So sometimes if people or kids have those bumps on the outside of their upper arm and eczema, right, we can kind of narrow things down a little bit. Let's do a challenge and cut those foods out, or let's actually run a food allergy panel and see if that's creating, or that's adding to the root cause. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. So I like to talk about skin rashes to give people like, because from our perspective, it's always the root cause, but to give them other solutions, because the challenge with long-term steroids. So say you've got that eczema rash, right? And it just like drives you crazy, and you're always putting hydrocortisone on it. Eventually that will thin the skin. And so depending on where on our body that is, right, that can be a problem. We're built with our layers, our skin to have certain layers, right? And that does protect us against like, bacteria and viruses and things. Our skin is another line of defense. And so if we're thinning that skin, right, that also often thins the blood vessels beneath it, so increases our risk for injuries, broken capillaries, like blood clots, things like that. But we're also, that's not going to slow it down from popping up somewhere else. So like, okay, great, I use this whole tube of hydrocortisone and that fixed this, spot of eczema, but now I've got it on the other side. Right. So then you're constantly like chasing this itchy rash, with not a permanent solution. There are also, I think we've talked before about complete stool analysis, where we can actually look at the microbiome in our stool. So for some folks, if we're looking at the root cause, and maybe they've had a history of antibiotics or antiviral medications, those can change that microbiome, and we can see that change in a complete stool analysis, since our microbiome lives in the large intestines. And so we can identify sort of that imbalance and work towards correcting it. And so that's working from the inside out, to address those skin rashes, like whether it's a yeast skin rash or eczema or even psoriasis as an autoimmune component. So so there are solutions, right? There are options that people have. I think this week my toughest cases were they were kids, right? And they were kids that had have like a itchy weeping eczema, where like it covers their body, and they've been to specialists and they've been given creams and it just made things worse, right? So we look at gut health, and now gut health can be a little bit of a challenge for a 4-year-old or a 10-year-old, right? but we can at least, get an idea of like, oh gosh, if there's a lot of things that come up on a food allergy panel that's suggestive of like leaky gut, we can repair that.
Yeah.
Right. It's also going to improve their quality of life. If this is happening to kiddos who are 4 and 10 years old, it's going to improve their quality of life. So when they become teenagers or adults, they're not still suffering from the same problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because oftentimes with the gut is that, I mean, there are possibilities you can grow out of things, but with gut health, we often don't always grow out of it.
My experience is that you grow more symptoms a lot the older you are and the more neglected your gut health is.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. With our gut health, oftentimes we can take that for granted, right? And sometimes we don't always talk about it. And so, and I think people aren't always given the information that, hey, we can change that, right? Or just because something's been chronic and you've experienced certain gut symptoms, your whole life doesn't mean you have to keep continuing to experience them. Or we're like, oh, okay, so I have some folks who like suffered from constipation their whole life. Their mom suffered from constipation, their grandma suffered from constipation, and they're like, well, we're just a constipated family. That's just like in our genes. Like, it might be, but it could also be in the gut bacteria that you guys shared in your household, right? Because that also gets passed, from generation to generation. And so, the same thing like with eczema. Oh, well, mom had eczema, grandma had, dad's got eczema. It's like, okay, so there could be a little bit of a familial relationship there, but oftentimes, when you all live together, you eat the same foods, you eat from the same dishes, utensils. You often are going to share the same gut bacteria as your parents and your grandparents. And so and if that gut bacteria is not healthy, you're going to experience the same symptoms.
That makes sense.
So so there are things to help with eczema. So sometimes just if people aren't ready to do a food allergy panel, sometimes just eliminating those major inflammatory foods like the dairy, the wheat can be a good start in trying to address eczema. You can address it topically, right? Because sometimes that just itch drives people crazy. So there are some plants that you can use topically while you're healing the gut. Right. If we're doing a whole body approach, you got to do both at the same time. You're not going to heal it from the outside, even if you put like an anti-itch salve, like even my itch be gone salve, you could bathe in it. You got to fix the problem from the inside out.
And it's not about just eliminating food, right? Like eliminating food is going to help eliminate symptoms. It does not cure the issue because you have to start doing gut healing.
You got to repair it,
cure the gut health, and then you can add the food back in. But I think we've been taught just eliminate, and you're just a person that's gluten free for the rest of your life, and that is your life sentence. And it's like, no, you eliminate to help with symptom management, and then you start doing the work of healing, and eventually you potentially could put gluten back in because you have a healthy gut at that point.
Exactly. Yes, thank you for clarifying that, because oftentimes people are like, oh gosh, I don't want to go in because I know they're going to tell me to cut out dairy. Well, I can't live without cheese. I can't live without gluten and wheat. And that's not always our goal. Right? There are some people who have an intolerance like celiac, where their body actually creates an immune reaction where they cannot tolerate it. They need extra support. Right. But if it's just a sensitivity in foods that we're just trying to get the symptoms under control, start that gut repair and start that healing, even if it's gut, or even if it's been going on for decades in our life, we can still repair that. Our body always wants to be in that healing and repairing state. So there are things that you can add to your diet to help to support the healing of like a leaky gut, to reduce those sensitivities, so you can introduce them back in.
I always struggled with constipation as a kid. I think as a kid, I only went to the bathroom once a week. And in my 20s in college, I eliminated dairy. That helped, but still struggled with it. I've had allergies since I was a baby. Mom started us on allergy shots when I was 5. So we've gone 40 years with allergies, struggling with constipation, got it under control with taking magnesium at night. But when we switched me over to that probiome, I think it is.
Probiotic? Yeah.
Well, it's that one supplement that helps your body start producing its own.
Oh, Megaspore.
Yeah.
Megaspore probiotic.
It changed it all. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to take magnesium. I get to have regular bowel movements. I only have to take my allergy medicine now during high allergy season, which would be fall and spring.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I didn't have to take it year round like I normally did. I didn't have to take it at all this summer. This is the first summer in decades I haven't had to take it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I've struggled with all this for years, but because we finally found the right, like, I don't know, the right things to come together.
Combination, yeah.
You know, it's like my gut health is so much better. I haven't been sick at all since January when I got Omicron.
Yeah.
I haven't been sick since then.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's significant.
Yeah,
that's significant. We're improving. Yeah. Your gut health and your immune response.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, allergies, again, it's like eczema. It's an overreaction of that immune response, which starts in the gut.
Yep.
Yeah. So to start to support that leaky gut, right? Like oftentimes we do like those amino acids like glutamine that's found in cabbage to help to heal those enterocytes, right? While we're avoiding them. Because if we're not avoiding those foods, right, it's hard for your body to heal when it's constantly being insulted and constantly being bombarded. And then balancing out the microbiome. Yeah. So I'm glad that you brought up the Megaspore probiotic. So it's a little bit of a different probiotic in that it's spores from dirt. And the reason, and the research is really cool, but what it does is it not just introduces diverse colonies into your gut, but those specific colonies actually promote your natural flora. Okay. So we have thousands of different, probably tens of thousands of different bacteria species in our gut and on our body, in our microbiome. And there's just no way that they can put all those in a pill. There's no way they can do that. Right. So, and oftentimes the typical probiotic that you see, whether it's over the counter or physician grade, usually has like the top 20, maybe even top 40 colonies. There's a lot more research now in probiotics about which colonies support health and the deficiency of specific colonies creating like specific diseases, right? So like they see correlation between heart disease and having a deficiency in certain bacterias, or like in diabetes and deficiency in certain bacteria strains. And so what's cool with the Megaspores, it actually promotes that natural microbiome and gives those bugs an opportunity to grow on their own, so that we're not having to repopulate and take a probiotic every day, right? We're trying to find something sustainable.
We've had me on several different probiotics, right? And I don't know, I haven't been good about it recently, but for years it was like I either had kombucha, I had kefir, or I had sauerkraut every day. And for me personally, in my health, it just didn't make that big a difference until I started taking that Megaspore, and that has been definitely the game changer.
Some people do really well on on those on a probiotic or on those fermented foods, and that's usually the people who do well are usually the people who don't have those strains of bacteria in their gut. Okay. But where you started, right, you probably had those strains of bacteria in your gut. So you're repopulating with the same thing, right? So you didn't see significant improvements. So sometimes when people say, "Oh, I tried a probiotic, it didn't work," right? Or I tried this, it didn't change anything.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've got to create diversity in that gut microbiome, which is, what's nice about the megaspores, because it's not just creating diversity, but it's promoting, right, the growth of bacteria that you can't get in a pill.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
perfect. I think that's what I wanted to bring up about skin rashes. Oh wait, no, sorry. Okay. This a similar topic, but a little bit different. So I really briefly touched base on something like thrush or like candida. Sometimes we see candida rashes with like breastfeeding moms. We can see rashes that are from candida, that yeast, in folks who are like diabetic or have blood sugar issues, because candida loves to grow with sugar. So sometimes if people have diabetes, uh they can have candida rashes, but what's maybe a little bit more common is toenail fungus or fingernail fungus, right? So if people have changes in their fingernails or in their toes, they're always like, gosh, what can I do, to address this? And I'm like, if you're having rashes that are showing up, or fingernail changes that are showing up externally on the outside, there's something more going on, right? So usually if the yeast infection is showing either like even vaginal yeast infections or yeast infections on the skin, like rashes, usually like people, especially women in the summertime, will find them under their breasts or sometimes under their arms, or if you have fungal infections in your toes, it's an imbalance again in that microbiome in the gut. So you've got to treat that yeast overgrowth in the gut to actually resolve, things like toenail, fingernail, fungal infections, or when you start to see those changes.
That's interesting.
So I mean, there are a couple of prescriptions that'll claim, oh, okay, it'll get rid of that. And it may resolve things for a little while, but it'll keep coming back as long as you don't address the gut. So to get to that root cause, you got to start from the inside out. It's just that's more of a yeast imbalance or a fungal and yeast imbalance than a bacteria imbalance.
Interesting.
So I wanted to bring that up too.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. Let's see here. So this episode is going on during our camp. We are having a virtual, let's get clear on this, some confusion, a virtual fall break camp that is all about stress resilience, right? It's going over the course of 2 weeks. You can register anytime. At this point, you've probably missed a couple days, but we still have so much value and so many classes that you can pick and choose from. So we encourage you to go to KimberlyJarmanCoaching.com or my Instagram, Kimberly Jarman Coaching. In the bio, there's a link that you can register for the class, jump in. We have the replays. So if you've missed stuff, you'll have the replays. There's live classes, there's interactive classes. You get to pick and choose. You want to show up and do a class live and interact, fantastic. You don't, you just want to watch the recording, awesome. You don't have to attend at all. There's not going to be homework. This really is just meant to be like a week of like, here's all the things to help you with create stress resilience, understand stress, be able to add new tools to your toolbox. Anything you want to say about?
We hope you guys come and join us.
Yeah, it's $25, guys. Like people pay that to go to a yoga class, and you're getting access to breath work, yoga nidra, EFT tapping, meditation, life coaching. Dr. Carmen has a class on stress and hormones. Like, this is a killer deal.
Yes.
So, yeah. I'll also put the link in the show notes for you guys to register there too. See you guys later.
Thanks.